Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Ooh, that was an echo. That was no good. Wanted to start off with some jokes today. Dominic pretty pissed off. I'm pretty quick. Not any of you. You're the good guys. Thank you all for being here. MJ, thank you for singing on Jimmy Costa. Talk about that. Wow. Okay, looks like the camera already is not where it should be. It's a typical Cliff Schecter start to a and I'm hearing myself vibrate. So it is typical Cliff Schecter. Hold on, let me go find the other StreamYard that clearly is open somewhere on my computer and needs to be closed, or I'm going to punch somebody. Probably me. Uno segundo, mi amigos, if that was correct. But I took French, so you never know. This is really what I was not in the mood for because I've got something pretty serious to say today. Let's see. Someday I will have a smarter person here to make sure that I know what the hell I'm doing. Come on. Not in the mood for jokes today. Well, I will be in the mood for jokes eventually. Are you guys all hearing an echo here? Because I am, and I'm not figuring it out yet. And it's really pissing me off. Hold on a second. Let me let Matt McNeil in. Oh, wait, I got an idea. I have an idea. I think I know where it may be coming from. I'm so crafty. Do I have this open in YouTube? I bet I do. I bet I do. Oh, wait. Well, you can hear me loud and clear. That's a good thing. And I apologize that we're going through the technical difficulties and that my parents, well, were kind enough to gift me with certain good qualities. We hope one of them was not technical proficiency. Come on. There it is. Okay. If I didn't have 47 windows open, folks, this would be a lot easier. And this would be the kind of time that normally I would jump in here with every self-deprecating joke about what an idiot I am possible, but I'm fucking pissed and I don't care if YouTube ends up banning this whole goddamn thing because I got something to say here. And it starts off with, it comes pretty close to fuck you Republicans is where I think it comes close to. You may have seen again, I had a fun one of these planned for today. We were going to look at how we've kicked the Republicans' asses, particularly in that Iowa State Senate race. 22 points we performed over what we normally perform. We had lost by 11. We won by 11. You can do that math, even if MAGA can't. We overperformed by 20 points in Georgia. But, I remember where I was when Newtown happened. I actually remember where I was because I was on Sam Cedar's show, believe it or not. For those of you who followed me for a while, I used to do a Friday, Casual Fridays with Cliff or whatever it was called, up to about 2016, 17. I don't even remember on the Majority Report. And when we heard of this, there had been a shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, and we didn't know all the details yet. And as I was on Sam's show, it became more evident how horrific it was. That some lunatic who never should have had access to any gun had an assault rifle and went in and blew away 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, little kids. Their teachers died shielding them from bullets, which the bullets ripped through their teachers and then still killed the kids. There were there, and sometimes they needed DNA evidence to figure out who the kids were because these guns are made for fucking war. That's what assault rifles are made for. And if you need an assault rifle to shoot people, you're the worst fucking pathetic shot. And I challenge any of you jack offs because I used to shoot on a rifle squad. So if you want to come at me, why don't we go and see and have it out and shoot at some targets and see who's better? See, I needed a rifle, a bolt action rifle to hit what I was hitting. I wasn't some fucking wuss who needed an assault rifle to spray an entire area like a battlefield, which is what that was invented for. But okay, I'm getting off the topic a little bit. Little kids in Minneapolis, and Matt McNeil from Minneapolis will be joining us in a little bit, and so will David, were murdered today. Little kids. 2 children are dead. There's 17 others are in a hospital. They're at their first week of school. They were sitting because it's a church school. They were sitting in pews. So you know what they were doing? They were having thoughts and fucking prayers is what they were doing. So if I hear one of you, Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or any of you, offer your thought and prayers, I swear to God, if you're within reach of me. These kids were thinking and praying, and now 2 of them are dead. And it's because of you. You, Ted Cruz, who sat there when you were just, you had just become an elected fat little twerp who hadn't you had the chance to run off to Cancun when it flooded or when it froze or any other chance you could ditch your constituents. I remember you arguing against, this after Uvalde arguing, well, if we just reinforce the doors, well, that'll work really well when people show up at a parade or somewhere and start shooting, right? Hey, just put some doors out there, right, Ted? You dumb fuck. You guys clearly could not care about, oh my God, you're already with the Epstein files. You had to get those open when it was going to be Democrats in there. Oh, wait, Donald Trump's in there. Oh, we don't care about kids anymore. And you know what? We knew you didn't care about kids because you don't care about kids being shot. You want kids to starve in school, which is why you end up cutting their school lunches. You want them to die from lack of health care because you cut their Medicaid and lack of health care with some ridiculous law that a mother who would to be able to remain on Medicaid, you lowered the minimum age of so a mother before had a kid below 18. Okay, now it goes down to 6 because 5 and 6-year-olds should stay alone. You lying sacks of shit. I've just so had it. So just like that day in Newtown, little children are dead. And I'll never forget that because my older son was the same age. And after that, I never saw anything the same way. And I worked on this issue before that. I ran digital PR for Michael Bloomberg's group, then Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and later Everytown. And you know what? I don't want to make it sound like it's so depressing that we didn't do anything. We actually, after that and after Uvalde and other stuff, we ended up passing a number of Uvalde. I don't think I was still there. I'm sorry, but earlier ones. There was Tucson. Jesus, I mean, who could remember? There've been so many shootings, mass shootings. But we have a number of states, Minnesota, I believe, which you just mentioned. But the thing is, when the right wingers are like, oh, see, Minnesota's got universal background checks. It's weird how kind of like you can carry a phone, a hot dog, this baseball bat, anything else across state lines. Guess what? You can also carry across state lines a gun. Nobody can stop you. Maybe that's what ICE should be checking for. Maybe not nice human beings who are just trying to work and get by, but maybe assholes with guns trying to illegally cross into states when they bought a gun somewhere that would not follow the laws of Minnesota. Just an idea. So, you know which is the state that has the lowest gun ownership and also the lowest gun violence rate? Hawaii. Wow. What's the difference there? I can't put it together. Oh, that's right. You can't just drive across state lines there, can you? Look, this isn't even in question. The fact that anybody ever takes these lying assholes in good faith, the ones that make money off of this and the ones who've turned this into an issue where a bunch of guys sitting around with their fat bellies who can't see their own dicks need their guns to feel good about themselves. These gun fondling, gun humping losers. Same little incels like Elon Musk and all these other idiots, who are core MAGA. Yeah, and I'm being mean. I'm being insulting today. I'm being worse than usual. I don't care. I'm so fucking angry because there are little children that are dead. And if anybody is upset by any profanity I utter, the fact that the profanity of this country, the profanity of the Republican Party that allows people who are insane to not have to go through a background check and get an assault rifle or any other gun and be able to walk into a school and do this, that is so much more profane than anything I could say. But sure, let them get your attention on the crime in cities. You know why a lot of that crime happens? Republicans. Chicago isn't anywhere in the top 20, as J.B. Pritzker made sure to point out when he stood up to Donald Trump and pointed out that they're lying about everything about Chicago. Their homicide rates down 30%, their gun violence rates down 40%. But here's the dirty little secret. Most of those guns aren't coming from Chicago because you can just drive across the border to Gary, Indiana, and oh, you're in Indiana then. And yeah, this state I live in with these shithole Republicans running things here in Ohio, easy to get guns here too and send it out on the iron pipeline to other states. So they are suffering for what other states have done. Little children are dying because there are people that would rather, they don't want to be inconvenienced and have to go and buy guns in a way where there would be a background check. So back to 2012, we were fighting to get those bills passed. We had 56 votes on universal background checks. We had a couple of right-wing, stupid Democrats who were against it. Guess what? None of them are around anymore. The NRA said they would back them, and of course they didn't. So, great job there. What was it? Mark Pryor, Max Baucus. But at this point, every Democrat believes in universal background checks, or even a couple of Republicans. But we won't get a vote because they'll filibuster it. We won't get a vote because they won't allow it to come to a vote because they know the base of their party are a bunch of atavistic ass scratchers who, at this point, a gun is as important to them as any other part of their identity. And so the NRA doesn't even matter anymore. It's that freedom, man. What about, we found a democracy, and the thought was there's a public good and a public space that should be safe to all of us. I don't want your unvaccinated kid there. You want to not vaccinate your kid? Good. Stay in your home. You take care of it. I don't want your assault rifle near my kids. Where'd those rights go? Where's the preamble of the Constitution, the general welfare? Remember that? Domestic tranquility? That came before the Second Amendment, the part that talked about a well-regulated militia and had nothing to do with individual ownership. Nothing. In fact, any scholar reading that will tell you that there's even the right in there of states, if they wanted to ban guns completely. The only thing the Second Amendment was about was the federal government could not ban states because they didn't want federal overreach, which is sort of ironic right now, isn't it? When some asshole, some orange orangutan asshole is sending troops into cities. That's what they were protecting against, Donald Trump. They didn't want him to be able to come in and say, you can't own guns here. So a tyrant like him could come in. And so the only right that was bestowed there was for a well-regulated militia. So states had the right to arm their citizens. Even then, they kept those guns in armories. And but if a state decided they didn't want to have guns, they could ban them completely. 19th century, concealed carry was banned in Ohio, Kentucky, Wyoming, Texas, all sorts of places you wouldn't think, because they realized that somebody carrying a gun in a concealed manner was a danger and probably a criminal. And that's the thing is they've retconned our entire history. Ever watched the movie Tombstone? Anything else? What happened at the edge of town? You turned your guns in because, it wasn't really good for business, for the bars and for, those who, for the prostitutes and others and those who want you to gamble if everybody was shooting each other, which is what happens with stupid people, mostly men. Sadly, yes, we're responsible for most of this. So let's take the blame. And, and they would go and obviously they knew when they let them have guns, they'd show up, get drunk, shoot other people. Gee, it's been happening forever. So back here in Minneapolis, here we are again. We could have passed a universal background check law in, back in 2012 and many times since. We could have passed an assault rifle ban. We had the votes for universal background checks back then. We have the votes now. We didn't then for assault rifle ban, for a national red flag law, for psych tests, for licensing and registration, which, by the way, are both majority positions. And anybody on the right wants to use the conspiracy, use the fear mongering, because that's all they've got. They don't have logical arguments like, well, what happens? The government may just come in and blah, blah, blah. The government's already coming in with your asshole, Donald Trump. So shut up. In any case, again, who suffers? Children are dead who are thinking and praying. That's what they were doing. And they're dead. And it is Republicans' faults. And do not let them drag you into the details of it. Well, he got the gun legally, or, it wasn't used in this way or whatever. None of that matters. They have created a culture and created a history they made up where guns were always allowed to be carried by anybody. You didn't have to spend any time on a range. You didn't have to in any way show you were fit to own one. None of that is actually the way our history was. Much like they retconned our entire economic history, where we built the strongest middle class in the history of the world between the 30s and the 80s and turned us into what we are now. They did the same thing with guns. A majority of people favored a handgun ban back in the 60s and 70s, much like the rest of Western Europe. We tracked them on everything. And I can tell you, when I was in Italy and when I lived in France, I walked around and I never once feared that anything could turn out that way. If there was a fight, there would be a fight. And I'll never forget when I was living in Brighton, England. I was studying at the University of Sussex my junior year in college. There was a shooting in Brighton, and it was on the headline of the newspaper, American style shooting, 30 plus years ago, because that's who we are. We were that then, and we're that now. And this is like with everything else. This is why we must sweep these people out of power from A to Z, destroy them, eliminate them. I'm talking about electorally now, nothing physical. In fact, nonviolence. Think of John Lewis, think of Martin Luther King. One of the ways that their immigration policies have become so unsuccessful is they've been attacking innocent children with cancer and throwing them out of the country. They've been showing exactly who they are. And just like it worked to turn people against them during the civil rights, it has with immigration. Well, now we need to do it on this, because this will only get worse. The velocity of this weaponry, the strength gets worse and worse. We cut more funding from mental health, which is one of those talking points Republicans bring up every time. Ooh, mental health, and then they don't do anything about it. Mental health actually is part of this. It's not most people. Most people, we should be very clear. Let's not stigmatize. I have ADD, which means I'm neurodivergent, I believe I'm called. It doesn't make me violent. Most people who have various conditions are not violent, but there's a small percentage who are very violent and disproportionately will do this. And guess what? They shouldn't have access to guns. And again, I'm going to end with this. We can do it. There's 3 models out there. We've chosen our model, which is who the fuck cares? Like God sorted out. The other 2 models, which actually work really well, are there are countries that just don't allow private gun ownership. Japan, United Kingdom, it's very hard to get private guns there. And then there are countries that actually have plenty of private gun ownership. And some people listening here may know what they are. These countries are, maybe they live in these countries: Canada, Finland, Norway, Switzerland. But you'll notice that even those countries have somewhere between 60, 70, 80% fewer of these kinds of incidents than we do, because they take care of their people. They actually have guaranteed health care and mental health. They do other things to take care of the people, but also because they regulate the hell out of guns. Yeah, you can own one, but you'd better go through a background check, a psych test. There's a red flag law. No one's allowed to get an assault rifle unless it's under very, very specific circumstances. Nobody's getting magazines with more than 10 bullets in them. Just none of this stuff. We can have private gun ownership and cut down 70 to 80% of this. Every example from Hawaii to every study done, University of Pennsylvania College of Epidemiology and Harvard School of Medicine did a personal one on injury. And, you can look up these studies again and again, and you'll find that. And then, of course, there's just the example. And I'll finish by reading you, I know this has been long, but one of my most viral tweets ever. I was going to put in some of the other stuff earlier and I did not, but maybe this one will go in and fit well. Back when I was on the Twitter machine. Yeah, I forgot. The way they make you do this is you actually have to, you can't just drag it in. You have to actually find it on your computer. So I will do that because I think it's worth it. Sorry about this, but I will do it. I will succeed. There you go. There you go, folks. As a reminder, we have zero proof, that gun laws work. If you don't include Japan, United Kingdom, Belgium, Canada, Iceland, Romania, Norway, Austria, Argentina, the Netherlands, South Korea, Italy, Greece, Chile, France, Spain, Sweden, Singapore, Portugal, Israel, Czechia, Denmark, Taiwan, Switzerland, Poland, Germany, Luxembourg, Malta, Australia, Estonia, Croatia, New Zealand, Ireland, Slovakia, Latvia, Slovenia, San Marino, Andorra, Monaco, Lithuania. Ignore all of those countries that obviously have nothing to do with us, and you'll know that we can't learn anything from looking at the experiences of other countries. Just listen to the right-wing ghouls who make money off of our children dying. They're better sources. I could go on, but I've been going on too long, and I'm going to allow, let me remove this and add this, which is a Matt McNeil, and add this, which is a David Schuster. And yeah, there was a lot of cursing and a lot of whatever. YouTube may ban me forever. You know what? Fuck them, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't care. This is too much, and I am freaking enraged. So one of you take it, who probably has a little more control of yourself.
I'll just say, and just before Cliff, when you told me that this had happened, and actually you were the first one that told me about this shooting, and because I had my head buried in something else, and the news that I saw that it was that a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old died. They were among, and apparently the shooter fired from outside the church through the windows and killed the 2 kids, maybe some others that are going to die because they're in critical condition, another 17, 18 injured. And all I can think about is, and Matt, I don't know if you've got kids, and Cliff, your kids are relatively grown up, or one's headed to college and others in high school. I have a 10-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, and a 12-year-old. Not a 10 and an 8, but a 12 and an 8.
So you're exactly in the situation like when Newtown happened, and my older son was the same exact age.
Yes. Yeah. And Newtown is actually only about 25 minutes from where I live. So that issue hangs very heavy over this part of Connecticut. And this was the first day of school for my kids. I mean, the neighboring town, they started on Monday, but this is the first week. And what happens on the first day of school? Well, usually there's a big convocation. Kids gather in the gym and they have a big rah-rah session. That's what seemed to be happening, perhaps at this church. Maybe it was praying, maybe it was some sort of convocation, but it's their first week of school, their first week of Catholic school. And this is what, and it just, it's beyond words. And the other thing about it, Cliff, is to sort of tie it into what you're talking about with mental health. And then, Matt, I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear what you have to say. Is that I was working on a video earlier today about how Donald Trump's federalized DC troops are now stopping people based on racial profiling, which is unconstitutional, and trying to see whether or not they have guns and firearms. And if they do happen to have a firearm, even if they're legally entitled to have their handgun, well, then they're hauled off to jail for a week.
Because you're handgunning while black.
Right. Because you're carrying. And so in one case, this guy was surrounded by 20 FBI, ATF, ICE, all sorts of crazy agents. Now, imagine if those 20 agents, instead of just grabbing people who were black or Latino just because, imagine if those 20 federal law enforcement officers were spending time, say, I don't know, going through the mental health issues and trying to figure out, okay, who are the people in places like DC or Minneapolis or Chicago? Who are the young white men that fit the profile that are having some mental health issues? Maybe we can provide them with some resources instead of allowing them to be provided with assault weapons. And imagine if our federal government was focused on that and using the resources that way to actually try to help people who've got some mental health conditions.
They were actually cutting those programs,
grabbing people off the street. So anyway,
to throw it in quickly, and then we'll toss to Matt. They, as J.B. Pritzker pointed out in his very, very pointed response to tell Donald Trump to stay the hell out of Chicago, pointed out that if you cared about crime, you wouldn't be cutting. And he started naming programs, and a number of them. I think there were mental health ones in there, but there also were ones which, of course, back in the day of that fucking animal, that balloon, Newt Gingrich, referred to, joked midnight basketball. You may remember all of that, which actually was a program so that at-risk kids were given programs and community and that kind of stuff, so they were less likely to get into trouble. And they just cut that more in their big stupid bill. So again, if they cared about any of this stuff, they would show they cared about any of it, and they wouldn't try to starve these kids by cutting SNAP. And I'm going to get going again, so I'm going to stop myself. I do need to say quickly, if any of you don't know who Matt McNeil is, he is a Minneapolis-based, one of the few independently owned progressive radio stations in the country, AM 950. He has a fantastic show. I want to give you more details. Matt is one of the best voices in our country, a veteran, a guy who goes to church, someone who can speak to people in the Midwest. and is liberal, is talented as all hell. And again, if we had anything like what they have on the right, oh, I don't know, are people ever invested in any of us? Matt would be a national voice because he's that good. So you need to know that. And I'm really just thank you for being here at the last moment and giving you notice at the last moment, Matt.
My pleasure, and it's good to see you both. And just for everyone out there, AM 950 in Minneapolis, St. Paul, WCPT in Chicago at night, and then KKNW in Seattle as well. I'm on the air there. Three things. You brought up Newtown. I remember when my kids, David, are 24, 21, and 18. And I remember when my kids were at school and Newtown happened, and I remember just the gut feeling of getting my kids off a school bus that day and just grabbing them and running home sort of thing.
And especially your 18-year-old, like that's must have been about the right age, like in my family, like literally the age of those kids.
My son, we were at the 4th of July locally here a few years ago. And my son calls me and says, just out of the blue, Dad, there's been a shooting. We're 2 blocks down from it. We're all okay. I'll talk to you later. He was in Highland Park, Chicago, visiting his girlfriend's family at that parade. So once again, and Cliff and I, I'm not sure about you, David, but Cliff and I have a friend, and I don't want to say anything right now, but a personal friend whose kids were at Annunciation Church. This is one of those things where it's just...
And you know him, David. I'll tell you off. I don't know that he's gone public yet, so I'm not going to, but I'll tell you off air. He's probably somebody most of these folks are familiar with too. And I have a feeling he's going to talk about it soon, so I have a feeling they'll know.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. Were his kids okay?
Yes, his kids are okay, and it's kind of one of those things where it's a obviously he's shaken, and it reminded me a lot of the Highland Park thing, just all of a sudden realizing how helpless we are in this day and age. I'll give you a brief synopsis of what exactly happened. Annunciation Church has a school, kindergarten through 8th grade. They just started school this week, and on Wednesdays, they have a mass. They have a mass on Wednesdays to start the school day. And that's what happened. These kids were in the church, which is, it sounds like a separate building from the school area. They're taken over to the church. They're having a mass. The shooter, who, if I'm understanding this correctly, Robin Westman has been identified, a 23-year-old Westman.
Hey, do me a favor, Matt. Say everything else about him. I have a policy. I don't like these people becoming famous, which is what they seek to do. I don't mean to be a jerk, but I would rather not even say the name.
All right, no problem.
Because a lot of these folks do it because they want the fame of it. And
one thing though that is important to point out, he is a young white.
Yes, say everything else about him. I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I just you know what I'm saying.
And understandably, completely. The shooter, who is dead at this point, he walks to the outside of the church, glass windows all there, everyone's inside the church, and starts spraying the windows with gunfire. He had a rifle, he had a shotgun, he had a pistol. He fired all 3 weapons.
When you say a rifle, was it an assault rifle?
Yes, it sounds like it. And then,
I mean, he's spraying the area.
Yeah,
you'd have to
and busted the windows. At some point, he got into the back of the church, and that's where he killed himself. 2 kids were children were killed. Multiple others. The numbers kind of vary a little bit. It sounds like somewhere there is 17 kids are in the hospital right now. And also, I should mention, I think 2 of the victims are adults as well. And that's kind of how this happened. From anything you've seen, there definitely seems to be some connection to a fascination with mass shooters. That there was a video that was posted 2 hours before the shooting, and it seems like there is an association there. Also, it sounds like one of the reports that came out today, the shooter's mother apparently was an employee at Annunciation School. I'm not sure what the connection is. They were very quick to say that he wasn't a student there. That was one of the first questions they asked at the press conference earlier today. But the mother was an employee at one point. I'm not sure if she still is at Annunciation School. Needless to say, the last thing I want to just mention is there's only one thing that connects all of this stuff. Belter, Newtown, Uvalde, Minneapolis.
Yep.
There's only one thing that connects them: guns. It doesn't matter the person, location, anything. It's the one thing that connects every one of these tragedies. And it is apparently the one thing we can't talk about. and
Right.
address.
And as you know, because you were in the military and you shot weapons, and as you
Yes.
know, these people who are getting these guns, who are doing this in every other country that I named on that list, would not have access to one of these guns because they would have to go through a universal background check. There would be red flag laws. I'm not claiming it never happens. There are little mistakes and little things that happen, and there's a horrific, crime here and there. But my God, the regularity, the way we just, and that's, you're right. That is the one thing in common, is that anybody, if I want to get cold medicine 2 weeks in a row, I swear to God, I almost have to go through like a,
Yeah.
a cavity search, because they think I'm going to become, the next guy making the blue stuff from Breaking Bad. But if I want to go get any damn gun, I can go to a gun show right now, anywhere with my, with what I could sit here right now and threaten people on the air here. And that's the thing. And that's where I blame Republicans for the gun culture, because it is the culture. They have destroyed, if you want to look it up and read it, folks, the ATF. They have defunded it. They won't even allow them to use computer databases. They have to search through by hand like it is 1980. Okay. They've hamstrung and made sure that anybody who wants to illegally sell guns can get away with it, no problem. They've preserved these loopholes online and at flea markets so people can get them. And so that's the point, is anyone can go and do this. And we're just lucky that enough states have passed laws like Minnesota that we've stopped a lot of them. And enough of them are so stupid that they get themselves caught anyhow. But if we had a law enforcement we supported that made this a priority, as opposed to finding a guy that cuts your fucking grass and, and we need to throw out of the country, if they made this a priority, guess what? If he put that thing up 2 hours beforehand, they would have swooped down on him and found him, because they would be searching everywhere for that. But not in this country. No, we need to stop the gardener. We need to stop the guy working on the farm just to get by.
Hey Matt, what's been the reaction in Minneapolis? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I read that maybe the mayor had come out and said that he doesn't want the thoughts and prayers. Tell us more about it.
Well, obviously, I mean, his point was this: when your only answer is thoughts and prayers, you should be reminded that's exactly what these children were doing. They were in a church praying at the time they got slaughtered or were shot at. And this is just another case of doing nothing. I mean, and that's the great facade here. It's smoke and mirrors. It's, we're going to pretend to do anything. But at the end of the day, thoughts and prayers are only for the people saying the thoughts and prayers. It's about them making sure they feel better about doing nothing to stop a preventable problem in this country, because they get the gun dollars. I would love to be able to say, Cliff, your points about outstate people buying guns and driving them into metro areas and selling them for a tasty profit, that is one of the things that we need to address. I would love to be able to say that we don't know how this person got the guns, but there's a very legitimate chance this person just walked into a gun store and bought them all. And they say, hey, great, no problem, off you go. And
well, yeah, I mean, and you're right. I just was making the point because I was protecting Chicago when they try to make it sound like, Chicago and the whatever. And any study will show you 70 or 80% of these guns that are found at crimes in Chicago are not coming from Chicago.
Exactly.
So laws work in locale. These laws work. It's just we don't have metal detectors at the borders of cities or states, so people can bring them in. That's all I was saying. But you're right, because we don't have robust enough laws, even when it comes to what we require from sellers who do have licenses.
Yeah.
They do universal background checks, but there's no psych evaluation. We have very little requirement for people going and using a gun on a range. We have all sorts of loopholes where people, even who go through that process, still should not have a gun.
Well, and the mental health part of it, Cliff, that you're pointing to, I mean, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, Matt, when you talked about how that the shooter, apparently that his mother once worked at this particular Annunciation church, because in the Newtown shooting, the shooter's mother had worked as a kindergarten and first grade teacher. And so the psychological connections were that as part of, he killed his mom in Newtown before going into the school. These are issues that if you have a mental health sort of safety net, if you have help that is coming to troubled young people who are disclosing some of this, then you give a chance to law enforcement, if law enforcement is also invested in mental health, and realizing, okay, who are the people that we really need to sort of keep a close watch on? And here in Connecticut, for example, they have spent a ton of money and poured a lot of resources into identifying students, identifying young men in particular who are troubled, and trying to make sure that they get and their families get the resources they need to try to deal with some of their mental health challenges. I still don't think it goes far enough, and it certainly doesn't even begin to go, there's no federal effort as far as I can tell right now on this. But if you had that sort of federal effort, there is some repetition in terms of these things are solvable if you're willing to invest in the front end on them.
Well, and if I can also add, it's the other problem that we're running into is not only as Cliff said, everyone screams, well, we can't do anything about guns. We'll do something about mental health, but no one ever proposes $500 million for mental health services.
No, they just keep cutting it is what they keep doing.
Cutting and cutting. But the other side of that is we are being outflanked by these online groups, which create fan zones for these shooters. Crooks, the guy that shot at Trump, was also a guy that was deeply into this stuff. There is time and time again, you are finding it's becoming easier and easier for these subcultures that are existing online that fantasize and create, kind of this worshiping of these crazed individuals shooting people. And without the mental health, I mean, these people just get immersed in it so quickly that it goes badly, goes sideways very fast. And so it's not only are we not dealing with the mental health issues, we actually have people who are out there encouraging the lack of mental health.
That's also where we get into our failures when it comes to hate speech and disinformation, where not only have we become Second Amendment extremists, where we lie about what the Second Amendment means, we've become the same when it comes to the First Amendment. There was always yelling fire in a crowded theater. There's inciting riot. There's libel and slander. There's all sorts of things that you can't do. We find exceptions. We arrest people, rightfully so, for child porn. Even if they could never touch a child, but if they share pictures, that is not protected First Amendment speech, as it should not be, because it's considered too dangerous. It encourages people to do things. Well, what do you think sharing Nazi symbolism and things of that sort encourages people to do? Which is, by the way, why it's illegal in Germany. They have some experience with that, I would say. Why sharing the propaganda of declared terrorist groups is illegal in France. Why the only person outside of the shooter who was arrested for that racist shooting in the Buffalo supermarket that you may remember was a British national encouraging him to do it. Because in the United Kingdom, if you encourage someone to do something like that, you go to prison for 10 years. In this country, you get a slap on the wrist and don't do it again.
Cliff, I have a question for you. And this is, of all the things you and I have talked about through the years, maybe I asked this of you years ago on one of the previous cable channels. I'm not sure. But there's this idea that's out there that maybe one of the non-governmental ways that this could be tackled is if government required everybody who has a firearm to have insurance. And then you let the insurance companies make it nearly impossible for the high-risk folks to get weapons, either because the costs are so prohibitive or they simply won't allow it. They won't allow you to get an insurance certificate if, in fact, you have any of these background issues. Would that work?
Absolutely. That would be another way to tackle it. But again, see, that's the thing, is that they don't want it tackled. So they block this. Another one, smart guns, which we have the perfect technology for, meaning you buy your gun, no one else can use it but you. Think of how many cases with lost and stolen guns and others where there are shootings. They may not always be mass shootings, but they're often shootings, that where a couple people die, one person dies, and to anybody who that was their relative, that's all that matters in the world, right? It just doesn't get reported in the same way because it's normal here. You think of who you brought up, whose name I won't say, in Newtown. He stole his mom's guns. If they had been so that only his mom could use them, guess what? He couldn't have used them if they had been smart guns. I don't know if at that point we had the technology working perfectly yet, but we do now. So between insurance requirements, smart guns, I mean, those are two other things you can throw into all the other things, from background checks to red flag laws to time required on the range to psychological evaluations every year to everything else. And if you were to do that, and that's what that grouping of countries I talked about that don't ban all gun ownership, but just have decided that we're going to find a balance where, yes, there could be some personal gun ownership, but we're going to do it in a way that also protects the public, like Canada, like Finland, like these places. That's how they do it, and it works.
Mhm.
It would cut down on the vast majority of gun violence here.
I'll give you another one, and we tried to pass that here in Minnesota. Was simply this: if you have a gun that's stolen, you have to report it. That it becomes illegal for you to not report a stolen weapon.
Yep.
And because let's go through the thing. What happens? Someone buys a weapon, someplace decides they want to sell it again. 3 years later, that gun is used in a crime. They come back and they say, "Oh, gee willikers, it was stolen. I just never reported it." Well, they were saying, okay, no, you should be keeping track of your guns. You should. And that if it is stolen, you have to report it. What got it knocked down was the ugly reality that there's enough politicians out there that realize there's a lot of people that are selling guns, and this is how they make money.
That's it. There's a secondary market with a lot of people making a lot of money. They're
Exactly.
all these guys. I mean, go to any gun show. I went to the 2015 NRA convention. They had 8 miles of gun shows. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like all the paraphernalia for all the weekend warrior loser who needs to dream he's something, the freaking infrared, goggles, the silencers, the whatever, the camo gear and everything. And it is an industry where all these folks make tons of money. So the NRA is a shell of its former self. I'm sure they're still laundering Russian money into our elections.
Oh yeah.
But they're not the reason anymore. They are not. It's that the right successfully made this a defining feature of being a Republican and being a conservative and having manhood, like denying climate change, like denying women equal rights. It's right up there. So anybody who steps out of line and argues for something reasonable on guns is kicked out of the tribe, so to speak. And so that is what you get, even though this is some of these things are the most common sense. Not reporting lost and stolen guns.
Yes.
I mean, it's insane that would even be an issue. But it betrays, as you said, I'll take it back to you, exactly what the reasoning is. Because they want there to be illegal gun sales. That's why.
I'm going to have to run here. I'll make one final point here about this. And that is just as a person who's fired weapons as the U.S. military. If you have, when they sit down and they design a gun, there are guns that are designed for hunting. But then there are guns that are designed to shoot and kill human beings as quickly as possible. If you've got more than 3 of those in your house right now, and they're not historic antique guns, they're just guns designed to kill other human beings as quickly as possible. If you've got more than 3 of them, you've got something seriously freaking mentally wrong with you, and you need mental help because you got 2 hands. So if you got 3 guns, that's a neat trick.
And I'd like to see you shoot 2 assault rifles with 2 hands anywhere outside of a Rambo movie. Okay.
I get it. You think that the Tremors worm is going to come through your basement and you need to have 500 guns loaded and ready to go. The reality is there's something wrong with you if you have got 3 guns in your house or more that are designed to kill human beings as quickly as possible.
And I'll say
something wrong with you.
Can I say something else quickly? Because I'm going to predict for you all right now. I don't know the whole story on this guy, but Matt already brought some of it up that he posted something 2 hours ahead of time. The thing that is the most upsetting and disturbing is they're not geniuses. I mean, obviously, often they're mentally ill, so they, whatever. But they all, I would say 90% plus of these cases, they left red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I think of the one always that I tell people about in Aurora, Colorado, who dressed up as the Joker and showed up in the movie theater and started mass shooting. And I still think that maybe the worst. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the one from Las Vegas topped it, but it was one of the worst ever. And that guy had had 3 different things. One, he'd been kicked out of his classrooms because he was in classes. He was like, it was the University of Denver, something like that, had been talking to himself and saying violent things out loud. So 1, that should have been a red flag. 2, he had a therapist he went to, and he told this therapist that he wanted to commit harm against people, and this therapist should have warned people. And then the third thing was he bought something like 6,000 rounds online at the same time. Again, not geniuses. If somebody makes a 6,000 round purchase and that doesn't get the FBI or somebody to start paying attention, then we are purposely not even trying.
And Newtown was the case, when the fact is that there were people out there that said young children getting slaughtered by a psychopath with an assault weapon was not a deal breaker. that's when our society, people want to point to other things in society. That's Republicans are driving our society into the ground.
They
Guys,
are. And that was the worst
go.
part again, is we had 56 votes on that.
Yeah.
But they filibustered it, and we allowed this stupid aconstitutional thing that does not exist anywhere in the Constitution, the filibuster, to stop us instead of just saying, nope, it's not, and fighting it out and letting the court stop us if they had to.
Hey, Matt, thanks for doing this.
Guys,
Matt, thanks so much for being here, man. And
Blue
Matt,
Sky,
your
Matt
show is on at what time should everybody tune in today?
3 to 5 Central Time on AM 950 in Minneapolis, 9 o'clock at night tonight in Chicago, WCPT, and of course in the late night hours on KKNW in Seattle. Matt McNeil show on Blue Sky, as well as I think it's Matthew McNeil one on Threads, and Progressive Citizen X Matt McNeil show on Facebook.
We may start sharing some more of Matt's work here if he's amenable to it, because
of course
you should see more on, especially on the Substack, because you should see more of what Matt has to say. He's that good. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Thanks, guys. And thanks, pleasure to be here. And I wish it was on better terms. I wish it
Me
really
too.
was. So, well, thank you.
All right. Well, I should probably let you out of here, shouldn't I? Oh, there he goes.
WCPT is the largest progressive radio station in America. And the reason I know this is because on another project you and I were involved in, We Act Radio in DC, a couple of our shows got picked up by WCPT, Chicago.
Yep, it's Chicago. It's good. It was there was a Democratic donor who put some funds into that. We do some of these things here and there, just not nearly broadly enough. There should be a WCPT and an AM 950 like in Minneapolis, and I forget the name of the one in Seattle that he mentioned, in every town.
Yeah.
Like every single town should have one of these, because we all have the guy here in Cincinnati, moron that he is, has gone national at times. Bill Cunningham, you may have seen him, but we're stuck with him here, and he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. And this is the way that and we have a Sinclair station here, and everybody gets Fox here. And I mean, it's just, that's how they propagandize people. And it drives me nuts. I wanted to, somebody said that is very true, that Hal Sparks has a Saturday show on WCPT. He does. And there's another dude who's awesome, and now I'm not thinking of his name. What is his name? Because the financial show on CPT. We always talk about how I'm going to go on it with him, and I can't think of his name. And he is great, really good guy. He does the financial show, but he comes from a progressive perspective. Chew's Views. There we are. My buddy Chew. And I can't even think of his full name, but it doesn't really matter. CPT, you should support. The good news, because there always at least has to be some of it, is we had elections yesterday, folks, and it reminded you of why Donald Trump is sending in the National Guard to try to egg on black voters to commit crime by attacking these National Guard. I'm sure they'll try to do everything they can to bait them, as well as other minority groups. They will probably line up at polling places. Particularly, they'll go into blue cities like mine in red states to try to suppress the vote. Richard Chew, thank you, Victor. Driving me nuts. I was forgetting his name. Because that is what the plan is here. They know that if we all vote, they're screwed. Let's give you a case in point. Cliff Schechter here is going to use his massive ability, his brilliance at technology yet again. So if a picture comes up here from
miracles do happen, Cliff,
from 1982 or something. Where is it? Where are you? Come on, work with me, kid. Work with me. Hold on. We got to be almost there. I got some good ones in here I could show people otherwise. This one's fun. I don't know if you can see it. It's of course, Gavin Newsom completely trolling. It's another Gavin Newsom meme completely trolling Donald Trump. and we do like those here. Hold on, let me remove that. And now search again. But I thought that was worth showing. And I hope you all agree with me. And I know you got to get out of here in about 5 or 7 minutes. And sorry to have this kind of a
discussion. While you're doing this, we're talking about good news. I want to throw out some other good news that's out there. Never mind. And we're going to talk. I know you're going to talk about the election in Iowa. I think the state Senate election and how Democrats were able to stop a Republican supermajority there in Iowa. the other good news, I mean, we've seen sometimes the courts standing up to Donald Trump with judges saying, no, you can't do this. This is unconstitutional. It's unlawful. We just saw that happen now with the grand jury. The New York Times is reporting that the sandwich slinger, the guy who took his Subway sandwich.
I saw that. David wrote a Substack for Blue Amp on that, by the way. On the Great Sandwich Rebellion, one of the funnier things David's written. You should check it out.
And so, a judge initially said, no, we can't bring a felony charge. That's excessive. So the Department of Justice, the prosecutors went to a grand jury, which is another way of bringing down an indictment, a charge. And the grand jury, which they always say a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. In this case, they decided not to indict a guy who threw possibly a ham sandwich because he was throwing in at representatives.
That's a good point. Like, indict a ham sandwich.
Decided, no, we're not going to charge this guy with a felony. That's like unheard of. That's like the ultimate rebuke to prosecutors. And so,
do we know that they did not indict his ham sandwich?
I mean, it's, for a grand jury to basically say, no, we're not going to do what the prosecutors want is practically unheard of. And so I think this is, we're going to start seeing maybe more of this as you look at residents of DC and other people who serve on these panels are like, this is outrageous.
And there's a link, by the way, everybody, to David's piece on the Great Sandwich Rebellion, which you absolutely should read. And again, look, before this happened, I came ready for all sorts of good news. I mean, Donald Trump's hands seem to be transforming before us into some kind of witch, like the witches of Eastwick or something. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's out of his freaking skull. But even was it the president or whatever of Chile the other day was talking about actually saying out loud that Trump didn't know what he was talking about. I mean, he has no respect from foreign leaders. There are people like J.B. Pritzker that are standing up the way he did. Gavin Newsom's doing what he's doing. Yeah, we're going to need more of us to take the civil rights tact and show up and be willing to get arrested and be willing to have these guys lose their crap on us. And some people will be harmed. It sucks. But I think that's the last thing that's needed here is because I believe for J.B. Pritzker to really be as effective as possible, and I think he's been incredible, he should honestly, if he finds out they're coming, line up on the border and say, no, these are my National Guard. These are my police. You're not coming in our state. Get out.
Yeah.
And
so Iowa.
There we go. There's Iowa. Democrat Caitlin Dray. We're getting this from the Down Ballot, which is David Neer's publication, who's very smart at this stuff. We've had him on here before. Win a deep red Senate seat in Iowa, breaking the GOP's supermajority. Hugely important. Now they can veto stuff and stop it in Iowa by Kim Reynolds, crazy person. She won by 11 points in a district Trump carried by 11 points. So if you can multiply 11 by 2, and I know we're all that smart, you get to 22. You got to remember, in 2018, when we crushed this guy, we were overperforming often by 10, 12, 14 points. We now have multiple cases where we're overperforming by over 20 points. There was an election in Georgia, too. It's probably not going to be one we're going to be able to win because it's so Republican. But our guy got into a runoff because he should have gotten 20-something% of the vote, but he got 40-something, held the opponent to 40-something, and there's going to be a runoff. He'll probably lose, but in the end, he performed 20 points above what any Democrat has ever done there before. So this is happening, and this is why we have to fight and make sure there are free and fair elections because they know they're going to get, as long as Democrats step up and have a real message, and of course, that's always a question. But I was lucky enough, I think someone was MJ said she saw me on Jim Acosta yesterday, and we talked about this. The Gavin Newsoms, the J.B. Pritzkers, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Ted Lieu's, the whatever, they need to make sure that Chuck Schumer's get the hell out of the way. They just do. And I don't care. If that's blowback on me and somebody gets mad at me somewhere, I really don't care. It's enough. Like the leadership needs to get, if they start doing these things oops, I removed David instead of removing Iowa. I'd rather remove Iowa than David. No offense, Iowa. But it does have more electoral votes than David, but David's cooler. So, if we have these folks who continue to stand up and speak out and fight back and go after this guy, and then we can also make sure that we are there to protect. We have the right message, and which means again, if they start pushing this crap Like, I know Kirsten Sinema was the deciding vote that destroyed, like, us getting rid of the carried interest loophole. But the carried interest loophole that allows, as he often says, Warren Buffett to pay less than his secretary in taxes, the insider trading in Congress, these should be some of the easiest things to run on against a Republican Party that literally screws over people making $750,000 a year. They are of, by, and for the 1%. You're anywhere from, impoverished to upper middle class, and they are screwing you. And we should all be able to unite against creepy, weird, just annoyingly awkward, stupid billionaires. How Peter Thiel and Elon Musk haven't become the face of that party with their 47 kids and they're wanting to live forever and all their weird, creepy obsessions, because it's all the stuff we're doing for them that makes it so working folks can't get health care. Upper middle class folks can't send their kids to college or pay for childcare. Everybody else on some level is suffering because of what we're giving to them. And it should be the most easily messaged election if we will stand up and fight it. If we can do that, as well as protect our polling places, which is going to be a tougher order, particularly in states controlled by Republican attorneys general and Republican governors. But we have to do everything we can, because we have to win back either the House or the Senate, and preferably both. And we can now. There's a path. I mean,
yeah, and
you saw what just happened in Iowa.
It's Joni so encouraging. It's so encouraging.
Right. And Joni Ernst is the one in Iowa who said, we all die sometime, when she was talking about, people losing Medicaid. She's apparently underwater. Susan Collins is underwater. They seem to have finally seen through some of these Trump enablers.
And the midterms, are important for all the reasons you just pointed out, but also, even if you're just talking about, the sanctity of the vote and elections, it's a lot easier to conduct oversight and to bring attention to these issues if the Democrats control the House, or the House and the Senate, for 2 years leading into the presidential in 2028. And I just, I think I was mentioning earlier, I saw this interview with the DA from Philadelphia who said he's not as concerned about the vote being robbed from Democrats in the midterms as he is in the next presidential election. Well, and that's because, if you look at what Donald Trump is doing now with some of the big cities and sending troops in, that could essentially depress turnout in heavily Democratic precincts, because people are afraid to vote because they might get arrested or pulled aside or whatever it is. And if you're able to depress Democratic turnout in urban areas, you increase the chances that Republicans can then win a state like Pennsylvania, because they run up larger margins in the rural areas. So he's
correct.
Even
a state like this, because again, this is a lean, strong, lean Republican state. But Sherrod Brown has always bucked the trend. And as I point out to people, they're like, "Oh, well, he lost last time." He overperformed Kamala Harris by 8 points. Do folks understand what a big margin that is? He only lost in that atmosphere by 3% here, which means a very unpopular Donald Trump not on the ballot this time. Sherrod can win here. But if they go to, as we call them here, the 3 C's, our 3 biggest cities, and then Dayton and Akron and Toledo, and they try to suppress the vote, that can be enough. We have to do whatever it takes. We have to put our bodies on the line.
Yeah, and I'll just finish with this. If Sherrod Brown can win in Ohio and Democrats can get a couple of Senate pickups elsewhere, and they're able to, get the 40 or 50 seat sweep that we're sort of looking at as a possibility now in the House. If Democrats have both the Senate and the House, Cliff, can you imagine the ability to control not only the media messaging and the narrative, but to conduct oversight on these ridiculous Trump administration efforts to squash the vote or intimidate voters or to violate and shred the Constitution? Yep. And that'll be amazing for 2 years. And that will be perhaps the best safety net Democrats have leading up to 2028. So,
you're right. And last thing I'll say as you go is I'll say, the last recruit that I feel like they've got to get. They got Sherrod Brown here. They got Roy Cooper in North Carolina, who I think definite odds-on favorite to win now in an open seat there. They have, and Democrats control the state, so they can't mess with it. Another state we control, and this person could run themselves, is Janet Mills, and that's the last one they're working on. Hugely popular Maine governor, who's the one who stood up and got in Trump's face and said, "Sue me, or I'll see you in court," or something of that nature. And then she beat him in court when he was trying to do so. And there was some hypothetical, I swear to God, she's leading Susan Collins by 30 or 40 points. Yeah. She would, if we don't get a good candidate that people have heard of, we can get her in the race. I honestly think Maine and North Carolina, and yes, Ohio with Sheridan on the ticket, and where Republicans are, not to mention Iowa, not to mention a few of these other states. I think we have an outstanding chance then to take back
Agreed.
the Senate. So,
Agreed.
David,
All
go
right.
get your kids and hug them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hate even having to talk about this
Yeah.
because for
We
those of
will,
us,
we will
it's
circle.
heartbreaking. And those two families out there, I don't think saying my heart goes out to them and I would do anything for them is enough. So I don't know what to say, but
I hear you. I hear you.
I hope they can
Thanks,
find
Glenn.
peace.
I'll circle back later.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
thanks a lot, bud.
Yeah.
My friends, I really, really, really did not want this to be this kind of a show. I was hoping for a happier show. Had a great time with my friend Jim Acosta the other day. I don't think I have a clip here, sadly. Maybe I'll get one by next week to show you all. There was a clip, though, from an earlier one. I've been on with him twice. That was pretty funny. It is where I was able to get him to say fuck, because Jim Acosta has something called he has Fuck It Fridays, where he's willing to say it, but other days he tries not to. I mean, he's such a it's so much fun to see him outside of like that atmosphere in on CNN, where obviously he had to let's say he had to behave more. Hold on one second. See if I think I have this actually, guys. I think I have it. And I think it's marked properly, so I don't even have to search for it. What do you know? Once in a while, we can get stuff right. No, of course, it won't let me upload it. I don't know why. It's an MOV file. I thought that was okay. In any case, Cynthia Rice, our wonderful Cynthia. I don't understand how people keep voting against their own interests. I don't either. There's this sort of arrogance among people where they think it can't happen to them. And I can't tell you the 5 years I did the stuff for Everytown for gun safety. And even after that, I was a consultant, but 5 years I worked very closely. I was a consultant then, but like ran their digital PR. How many people I met who had been former Republicans who were just like, they couldn't believe that this could, I mean, Carolyn McCarthy, if you remember her, those of you old enough, was a Republican until her husband and son were shot on the Long Island Railroad by a crazy shooter and ended up becoming a Democrat and running and fighting for gun safety. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand people who support a party that hates them and cares not a bit for them or their children. I don't understand how you still fall for it at this point. And I see Rob Law up there about SCOTUS giving Trump absolute power, right? Remember, Joe Biden didn't have the power to give people student loan relief, but Donald Trump was immune. Because nothing says you're an objective and honest and not a bunch of fucking hacks and bought and paid for. And where did Kavanaugh's debt get paid off and the rest of it? Nothing says that, like guys that think that one guy can't relieve student debt, but the other guy has immunity against everything almost. I'm mostly done here. Tomorrow, and it's confirmed, but I will confirm again, we should be talking to on Amped Up with Cliff Schechter. David will join me. It'll be 2 p.m. only on Substack. We'll be talking with Olivia Troy. You may remember she was national security for Mike Pence, and she's one of the ones who got out of there early and turned very vociferously against Trump and the Republican Party. Great person. I've really enjoyed getting to know her a bit, and she should join us. We'll talk about some foreign policy, some other stuff. So that's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Otherwise, we'll have a Substack letter coming out later today. For those of you, please subscribe. Very easy. Blueamp.co. Blueamp.co. I don't feel like I talked here about the Sound Check Fund. In the letter today, I believe I may be able to fit in the 5 folks that we're going to announce. We actually have pictures and everything now. We've been waiting to get all their info, who we've given grants to, because our paid subscriptions at Substack, we are using, as well as other funds, to try to build an ecosystem, because no one else on our side seems to want to do it. None of the billionaires seem to want to do it. Anything else going on? Anything else? Let me thank the folks who've been awesome. Wow. Ohms, am I pronouncing that right? Has been a member for 9 months. That is quality. 9 months. That's a commitment. We could have had a baby by now, and you've been here. And my friend Mr. Android with $3.33 super chat. Here's to the markets. Long may they rise. Are the markets shooting up today? Don't even know. Was busy paying attention to other stuff. General Putnam, Olivia Troy is ace. Yes, she is. Thank you. Fantastic. For tomorrow's show, we got Jim showing you stuff here. Sheldon, we have a great community here. We do. Guys, answer my question. What can we do to make this even more of a community? I've tried to get folks even for free to join Patreon. I originally planned to do more there. I still put up posts that are specifically for paid members, and then I share the stuff that's for everybody, like my Substacks and videos that go out for free. I share with everybody, but I put up certain posts and memes and stuff that are just for the paid folks. But I'd love to get this to be more of a community, even though I think it already is. There's some great folks here, and I would love to. What is it? I proposed at some point, and if folks would do it here, if people sought me out, especially if you're a Patreon member, but I think I would do it even if you can show me that you're showing up here. If you became a paid subscriber at Substack, I think we would pay 50% or some large amount we would cover to get you in there. And then David and I are talking about on Substack, if you want, doing a question and answer session every Friday, a video where anybody who's a paid member could ask us questions. We've got 500 something thousand subscribers, so I cannot open it to everybody. Whereas I can open it to paid subscribers. Is that the kind of thing you guys would do if you were to join? Checked your Venmo lately. I haven't, MJ, so you're awesome. I think you're implying something. MJ, let me know if you're a paid member. If you're not, and you've been kindly supporting me, let's find a way to get you to be a paid member at Substack. And I would love for the rest of you, as I told you, I will do what I can to financially help. We have a sale going on right now. It's in honor of Labor Day for our workers, Lefty Gramps. Thank you for the $5 super chat. But right now we have a sale going on that is, I believe it's 20% off. You may inspire me. Maybe I'll raise it up to 25 or 33% today. If you can afford that, jump in. Again, if you want to, if you want this community to really sort of grow in that way, Substack is probably my future. It's where we've got a lot of followers, where we were given our own show, and all of that. If we can get, not that I want you, please subscribe to YouTube at Cliffs_Edge, and please, join us here. But if we can, I would love to get everybody, who've been such good supporters here to be paid supporters there. And again, so we've got a discount right now of 20% off. But, if we can find ways, if you want to reach out to me, which you can, let's see, which one should we use? Email. I will find a way to try to support you guys. And I will recognize, because I know who comes around here and is on this show supporting me. So that makes it all just a little bit easier. All right. So I think I'm going to use this email. If you email me here, reach out and you say, you would like to be part of this plan where we can try to figure out a major up to 50% discount for you to join, become a paid subscriber there, then you will be able to get in on the Q&As with me and David. You'll be able to comment on our posts there, which most people can't do, and we can interact that way. But I'm willing to add all sorts of things. Sheldon Hughes, Lev Parnas would be a great guest. Yeah, I'd love to have Lev on. We're 1 degree of separation. I think it'll happen. Malcolm Nance does a lot of stuff with him, and Malcolm's a good friend. You probably know that. He's been on here a bunch of times, so I think we could probably make that happen. So thank you. Thank you for the super chat. But here you go. Here's where you can email me, any of you, and I hope you will. Because, yeah, I'll do some stuff at Patreon, but because the Substack is growing so quickly, I really would love it if we can get more paid folks over there. And again, the people that have supported me here, I'm absolutely willing to give even bigger than the 20% discount we're showing there right now. Stephanie throws out Tennessee Brando. I do not know Tennessee Brando, which is not to say I can't try to get him or get to know him. I can. but I do not know him in the way that Lev Parnas is pretty easy to get in touch with for me. Somebody else had asked before, do I do stuff with Tony anymore? Who asked that? Bev, I believe, right? And I meant to answer that earlier, Bev. There you are, Bev Matthews. Yeah, Tony was actually until we ended up getting Matt on today because of I was going to have Tony on, but Matt being in Minneapolis was important. But yeah, we really need to do more stuff. And I'll talk to Tony. Maybe one of these days. It's getting late in this week with everything I've got to do, but maybe I can get on his show too. It'd be fun because it's fun. MJ, can you tell the Substack people to fix their chat functionality before they introduce ads? Yes. I Venmo you weekly to avoid fees. Well, Jesus, I really should check Venmo. Sorry, I don't do a lot through it. You're awesome, MJ. Substack people to fix their chat functionality before they introduce ads. I'm not sure if you're talking about me there or whatever. Oh, you mean the Substack people overall? Yeah, they are going to introduce ads at Substack. We'll have some because we do have a big readership, and that will provide us with more funds to do more things. I can hire David full time. I can hire an operations person, and if you've seen me managing the technical stuff here, can you imagine if somebody else could help me with that? And we can provide you more stuff. I want to write more stuff. I want to do more live streams. I want to talk about other issues that I know things people I know are interested in. As we spent one of these things here one time, just literally talking about about the first concert everybody went to. So I know music works here. People like it. Guess where I'm going? I am seeing this weekend System of a Down. If anybody is a metal fan, and I'm pretty damn excited because I got to know Serge, the lead singer, a bit because we did some work on preventing Armenian ethnic cleansing, which was awful. But he's a good dude. I think that's mostly what I've got to say overall. Before I sign off, look at that, 4 folks. Mr. Android, Ohms, Lefty Gramps, and of course Sheldon. Do we have, is this fish going with me? It's just, I may have to do it. It's been so long, I don't even remember how to do it anymore. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Is this fish? How about we get to 5? Can one more person on the way out? One more person, 99-cent super sticker. I don't care. Anything. Dexter from The Offspring just liked my FB comment on his post, Amethyst Pony. That is pretty awesome. One of the guys at The Offspring used to follow me on Twitter, and I haven't been on Twitter in a while. I feel like I was a guitarist or whatever. I'll have to go check it out. So anybody else? Come on, let's get out of here with at least 5 super chats. All right, that makes me feel good. Remember when I used to be like 10? I don't even do that anymore. All I need, 99 cents. Look at that, Mr. Android, Sheldon Hughes and Mr. Android. I would really love it if we were a new person, if you could afford it. And that, I know MJ is obviously over at Venmo. So, okay. But now we've surpassed it. 6. Sheldon with $2. Thank you so much, Sheldon. And Mr. Android with $1.11. Thank you so much. Last comment I'll read here. Theron. Cliff, I want to know why Republicans keep sending armed gunmen to our schools to murder our kids. I do too. And they party may not specifically send them, but what the party does is gives them the ideology with propaganda, gives them the ability to get guns easily, doesn't offer them mental health. So yes, that's why I put what I put in the title here is, as far as I'm concerned, they're just as responsible. They are supporting the shooting of American kids. There's just no other way to put it. You can try to sort of dance around it, but that's what they're doing. Thank you for you guys for the super chats. Lefty Gramps, enablers be enablers. Yes, they do be enablers. Join me tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, with Olivia Troy and David Schuster. We will be on the Substack machine for Amped Up with Cliff Schechter. Also, reach out to me, cs@blueampaction.com, if you would like to become a paid subscriber, and we can work something out. If you've been supportive, especially if you're a Patreon member already paying, then that might cover the whole thing. I would give you a paid subscription for almost for free, depending upon what you're doing. So reach out. We would love to have more folks over there. And when you've got too many places you're doing stuff, I really think that can become a place I can concentrate on that side of things and then keep doing the videos, some of the stuff here and YouTube. But I think that's it for today, folks. We've already gone to over 1 hour and 15 minutes, past 3:17. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for supporting everything I do. Hopefully, it was sad today. Hopefully you learned some stuff. Hopefully we entertained you a bit. And as I say at these moments, my friends, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell.